everyone, my name is Nathaniel Butler and I'm your financial coach. I want to talk to you about stress and money and taking stress out of money. Here's the thing, you know that most of us have never really been trained how to handle money. And the reason for that is that in most cases, our parents or guardians weren't trained on how to handle money. So I'm going to give you a few tips which will help you navigate the money challenge. The first thing you need to do, let's establish our why. In order to be successful in the money game, you must know why. What are you in pursuit of? I would advise you to write that down. The next thing you want to do is write down your top 3 to 5 goals, because these goals will motivate you. And the last thing you want to do is you want to write down your top 3 to 5 values. Now let me explain. Your goals and your values are two totally different things. Your goals are specific, time sensitive, it's achievable, attainable. But when it comes down to your values, these are your priorities in life. Your values are reflected on your bank statement and also your personal calendar. The things that you value most will show up on both statements. And the reason why your values are important is because they mimic or dictate what your habits are. And in order to win in this financial game, you have to operate within your habits or make minor adjustments or modifications to your habits in order to be successful. The next thing is the cash flow. You have to learn to manage the cash flow. And in order to manage the cash flow, you have to write a written budget. I know. I have a budget in my head. That's what most clients tell me. Oh, budgets don't work. Not necessarily. And the last most common statement I get is, I don't know how to put a budget together. And that's okay. I'm going to give you some simple tools on how to put a budget together. The first thing I want you to do is, I want you to write down all of your income. Now, most persons in this exercise will write down their main income, or if they're working a 9-to-5 job, they'll write down that income. But they sometimes don't take into consideration some of the things that they may do one-off, part-time, side hustle, small side business. They sometimes don't take into consideration that income. So what I want you to do is also include that income. If it's irregulated or irregular, I want you to write down the average. Once you have documented what your income is, now we know what our opening balance stats is. The next thing I want you to do is, I want you to write down your expenses. And I want you to go line by line, writing them down. Once you start off, for those who are part of a civic, social, religious entity, you can write down your contribution in that area. For some person it's 10% and 5%. And then for others, those who have households where you're renting or you have a mortgage, I want you to write down what that is. After that, let's look at the utilities. Write down what is BPL, water and sewage, BTC, or whether you have a live, Cable Bahamas. After you would have written all of those down, the next thing I would need you to do is focus on the transportation. How much is gas? And do you put aside something for maintenance? Keep in mind, all of this is just the monthly budget. Now there are some items for transportation, such as your insurance, which is annually, or for your home, where you have the house insurance, it's annually. I want you to break that down into what that would look like in a monthly payment. And we're going to put that aside. Last thing, and this is the most troubling area for most persons, food. I want you to write down what you spend for grocery. And after you write down what you spend for grocery, I want you to also write down what you spend for takeout. And the key with this is, I need you to be as real to yourself as possible. Let's not write down things that we know we can't do. The goal is to make sure that we're able to hit the mark. And then next month, we will reduce the areas that are a little bit inflated. Once you would have done this, along with some other items that I have not mentioned, but is applicable to you. I also want you to write those down. Once you would have done this, you will now be empowered to monitor how your cash is being spent monthly. The only other thing I would say to you is that we want to track it daily. You can use apps. You could use the money envelope, or you could keep the receipts. There's no perfect way, but it helps you to stay on track, and it keeps you accountable to the budget that you set. Lastly, you have to be fired up and motivated. This is not an easy process, especially if you're doing it for the first time. It's going to be some challenges, but if you stick to it, and you keep your eyes on your why, and you focus on your goals, and you watch the numbers go in the direction you want them to go, I guarantee you, you'll now be able to take the money stress or the stress out of money. Now, I know there's some person saying to me, well, I don't make enough income when I'm looking at all of my expenses on the paper. And I understand that. And that's a true statement, that's a fair statement. Now that we are able to see it on paper, we now know what our deficit is or our shortfall is. The goal now is to make up that deficit. I would advise, if you have the time, look at a part-time job. You could even look at selling some things to compensate for the loss. And the last thing I would leave you with is make sure you document the budget before your payday. Don't wait until after, because if you wait until after, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, half to 3/4 of it will be gone. I hope you enjoy some of these tips. As long as you apply it, I guarantee you will have financial success. This is Drooper.